So how am I feeling now that I can start long runs again this weekend with only 3 weeks to go till the Boston Marathon?
All right, second day of running in a row, unbroken. So I've done a run for like an hour and then 3 15-minute segments the next day, but this is 2 days in a row. I'm looking ahead to what I have as far as long runs left. I have about 3 long runs that I can possibly do, and I'll be shooting for somewhere between like 75 the first 100 and then 120 minutes over the next 3 weeks. And this puts me maybe possibly right where I was for Chicago. Obviously my paces are a little bit different. I have been just off for 6 weeks, not off, but I have been in significantly reduced volume for the past 6 weeks, which has kind of gotten in my head a little bit. But I got to remember, once again, it's about the long run of the running. So spending years and years and years of my life enjoying this sport, not just the current training block. So Boston will happen. Boston will come and go. It's one of many races that I will hopefully do throughout my life. So yeah, you know, just every time you go out, you're like, there's this little bit of anxiety when you come back from an injury. I've been through it a couple times, even previously, growing up playing a lot of basketball with ankle sprains and some avulsion fractures and stuff like that in my ankles. So every time you kind of get back, there's this little bit of anxiety that is like, am I going to re-hurt myself on this run? But that's normal. So, you know, it's just part of the game. I go through it with my clients as well, my physical therapy clients. So it's not new to me, but it doesn't make it any easier. So, all right. I got a couple miles here. I got 50 minutes. I did 47 and a half minutes yesterday. So unbroken. It's going to be pretty easy aerobic pace. It is dark. It is cold. And it's time to run. All right, time to do some rehab exercises. I have 3 sets of squats, 3 sets of single leg deadlifting, and 2 sets of long lever bridges with a plate on my pelvis. And then it's back to some working with clients for a little bit. So it's nice to have this little break and not have to do it at the end of the day.
So last night I did a deep dive into what my training program looked like before the Chicago Marathon to see how many miles I was really doing at marathon pace during my long runs. And I tapped out at about 13, but I did some 10 and 9 and 8. And yeah, I only have basically 3 long runs to do this with, and I'm not going to really be doing too much threshold work, but I should be able to kind of fit in somewhere between 8 and 12 at some point between now and 3 weeks from now. So as long as the hamstring continues to feel good, back on the road to recovery, doing some rehab now. I have 3 sets of 6 squats, some single leg deadlifts, and long lever bridging, all of which you'll see in the video. But I'm definitely encouraged by looking back at that, and then also looking at what I was doing in January. I was just absolutely crushing miles for myself. Obviously everything is relative, but doing some sub 6, what did I get to? 10 sub 6 mile repeats with 5-minute rest. So I was feeling pretty good at that point. So that fitness can't all disappear. Also, I've been consistent with biking and keeping my heart rate up. And now that I'm back to unbroken runs, I feel good. Obviously, I need to be mindful. And so I've had 2 days in a row of running. Tomorrow, I'll be doing some walking, reintroducing some hills for that. And then Sunday will be my 75-minute unbroken run. We'll see, maybe I'll fit some marathon pace in there or not, but we'll see. All right. So this is definitely an advantage to having a lot of data, having an activity tracker, GPS watch. Kind of just, it's helpful to look back and be like, hey man, look at what you were doing before Chicago. In Chicago, I set a PR, did 2:59:35. So Boston's a different beast though. It's not flat, it's not as fast. My primary goal going into this was to go sub 3. I think I've probably had to shift that around, my goal around. A goal would be to requalify, so I'm 40. So a sub 3:05 would be awesome. So my B goal is to beat my original Boston Marathon time of 3:17, which I ran as a charity runner. Had no idea what I was doing. So I came out, I think I was running like 650 miles for the first 10 miles, even though my goal pace was a 7:30. I blew up big time. Even before the hills, I blew up, and then I hit the hills. Yeah, so one more set, squats, and then we're moving on to some single leg deadlifting. Fridays are always funny. I have a great crew of clients that come in on Fridays, typically. But you kind of just want the week to be over with. I think by noon on Fridays, I've already worked 45 hours usually, plus documentation time, all that stuff. So it's long for me. I'm an introvert, so interacting and talking with people all day definitely drains me, and I love my time being alone. And by Friday, kind of ready to just be with my people. Yeah, I think that's why running is so therapeutic for me. Just spend time alone in my head with my thoughts. But even though I'm physically draining myself, mentally, I am definitely much more recharged when I'm running. So that's part of the reason I think it has stuck with me for all these years. But it wasn't until I really consistently started it that I saw those benefits. For a long time, I focused a lot on powerlifting, really, specifically the deadlift. I wasn't very good at that either. But running seems to have stuck. I definitely enjoy it, knowing the ins and outs of it a lot. So here we go, we got round 2. All right, Saturday, I'm out for an hour-long hill walk. I had a post about hills yesterday, actually, with Train Smart Run Strong. She's a good follow on Instagram and TikTok if you don't follow her. And we basically pointed out that hills are an amazing tool to want to introduce sprinting. Why would we introduce sprinting with hills? Well, because usually you can get the adaptations that you're going for with sprints with not having to run as fast. And so you're less likely to create a strain on the body that creates an injury. So you don't have to run as fast, but you get the same aerobic and cardiovascular impulses. Therefore, you get the fitness you would get out of flat ground running from running hills, sprinting hills specifically. So there's reason number 1. Hill sprints are great. You can introduce people to sprinting or yourself to sprinting without having to run as fast as you would over ground, where your body might not be prepared, might not have the tolerances or capacities to run that fast if you haven't been doing it. Now, this is assuming we're running uphill, not downhill. So run the ups, usually walk or light jog on the way down. Nothing too crazy on the way down, but it is a good way to help open up your stride if that's something you need help with. Number 2, if somebody doesn't have time or is averse to going to the gym for whatever reason,
hills, running up hills can be a great tool to help improve quad, hamstring, calf strength, glute strength too, to help push you up those hills. Okay, you're fighting gravity. The way down, you could argue that running on the way down just smokes your quads because it strengthens them, but once again, we're specifically talking about running up hills. So it can help strength train your legs if you're pressed for time, if you don't like going to the gym, if you don't know what to do at the gym. Running up hills is pretty damn good. So another reason that we would have people do hill sprints is to help with form and efficiency. So although we all have different running form, there are certain characteristics that all runners should have, strong toe off, decent powerful hip extension, some hip flexion as well. And running uphill actually accentuates all of these things. And so we can actually practice or improve some of these characteristics by running up hills. So once again, although everybody's running form is going to be a little bit different, we can go after those characteristics of a strong toe off and some decent hip flexion and a powerful toe off as well. Where do we start with hill sprints? Well, like any other sprinting, we want to be judicious. We don't want to just dive in and do a ton of volume. You just kind of slowly introduce it, whether it's on an easy run. You can do some strides uphill, 10 to 15 seconds. Little bump or surge, as Steve Magnus calls it, uphill. Or if you want to be a little bit more calculated, if it is going to be a speed day, a workout, very, very light workout, you could start somewhere like 3 reps for 50 to 100, 60 to 80 meters uphill, somewhere at like a 5% grade. So nothing too crazy. And as far as pace goes, usually I'll have somebody start between 5K and 10K pace. Nothing that is unfamiliar to the body, because the demands of running uphill are a little greater. So you do get the same cardiovascular response by running slower. So you're not going to go out and run 400 meter pace uphill your first time out, because that's going to absolutely wreck you if you've never done it before. So once again, start with 3 to 5 reps, somewhere between 50 to 100 meters, or 10 to 15 seconds if you're going to do surges. And honestly, when you go forward and progress this, once again, be judicious. Go 1 to 2 more reps each workout, nothing too wild. And after a couple weeks, you can turn those hill sprints into flat ground sprints, because you've built up capacity within your tissue. The problem people get into, myself included, when I was adding intensity into this training block, was that my tissue capacity couldn't meet the demands I was putting on it. So what happens is the tissues say, F you. And that's how injuries can happen, whether they're traumatic or if they're overuse. That's when problems arise. When you introduce a little bit too much intensity too fast. At least that's on the end of the intensity spectrum for injuries. So let me know what you think. If you have any more questions about hills and hill sprints, please let me know. But they're an extremely useful tool, and doesn't need to be anything crazy. If you have any questions, please let me know. Reach out. This is Runner's U. Hope you learned something. All right, finished 3x3 at marathon pace. Definitely fatigued in my left calf, which was my old injury 2 years ago, and right hamstring. I think it's important to remember when we're injured in one part of our body, the rest of our body also deconditions. So I do need to be mindful of that calf, pay attention to it over the next couple days. Tomorrow is a cross training day, so it'll be a little bit easier on the calf. So all in all, felt pretty good. 9 miles at marathon pace with 5 minutes. It's 3x3 marathon pace, 5 minutes in between reps, so feeling good.